Zoe and welcome to Teology. I am drinking ginger apple tea at the moment, and this is the first installment of a new little series that I'm going to do over the year called Dissertation Diaries. And basically I'm going to take you through the process of me writing my dissertation in theology. So I am a theology student. I'm a distance student, however, so I spend a lot of my time studying alone in my living room, and I'm doing 400 level, so I'm doing my dissertation this year. So it's technically fourth year, but I've been studying for 5 years, and that's a whole other story. And my dissertation topic, so what I'm doing it on, is about the relationship between truth and justice. And so kind of the question I'm starting with is, what is the relationship between truth and justice in the Christian tradition? Which is quite hard to say quickly without messing up all your words. Christian tradition. So I'm starting off, of course, by looking at the Bible and words used for truth and justice. That's the relationship I'm unpacking. So yesterday I went through and made some notes about the translations of truth and justice in the Bible, that being mishpat, krisis, and dikaiosyne. I'm probably saying all of these kind of wrong. In Hebrew and Greek for justice, and then for truth you have emet or met and aletheia. And then typically the other words used as translations of this throughout the Old and New Testament are variations on emet or met and aletheia for truth. So I'm going through and looking at like, where do these come up? And sometimes these words get translated instead of truth to faithfulness in the case of emet in Hebrew. And what does that imply about that? And then how are these ideas of truth and justice related to each other and being taught together and come together as a relationship? And so I'm starting with the Bible, and I'm starting off at the moment by looking at the Gospel of John. So I've got some commentaries on John right here. I've got a little Bible notebook thing, which is actually, it's really cool. It's got the Bible on one side and like line paper on the other side. I've got another one for Daniel, I think, that's just like plain, or bullet. It's bullet on the other side. And they're really cool for doing Bible studies or that sort of thing. I love them. This one is an ESV, but you can get CSVs of them. You can get all sorts, but they're really cool. They're really good for book studies. And then I've got, for my studies, we have to use a particular version of the Bible, which isn't ESV. We're recommended to use NRSV. So what I'm going to do next is I've got my NRSV study Bible. Open up to John, and I'll be looking at some of the notes that it makes on. So it's a study Bible, so it's got like all the study notes and things. And so I'll be looking at those as I go through, pulling out particular verses that talk about truth and justice and often related ideas, like the law, and pull out those ones and look at them. And now the reason, and then I've got my commentaries. So I've got the Gospel according to John. I've got the message of John, and I've got Encountering John, which is kind of the more theological one. So that will be helpful as I'm unpacking parts of that relationship more. And the reason I'm starting with John is because out of every book in the Bible, John mentions truth the most. It's like a lot. And it's a really, really big theme in his gospel. So I'm starting there because it feels like the most straightforward place to start. It's the one that talks the most about truth. And then, and he does talk a decent amount about justice as well. Sorry, the lighting just went a bit weird. He does talk a decent amount about justice as well. So I'll be pulling that out. I'll also probably deep dive into Matthew for that. I'll do, at some point, do a deep dive into the Psalms because they talk a lot about truth and justice, partially because there's a lot of them. So I'll probably try and figure out what Psalms talk about it more first and then go from there. And find which ones talk about it together, because that's the place the relationship, I think, comes out most obviously. And I'm also supplementing this with doing some reading to sort out, like, definitionally, what route am I going to take and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm going to take you along with me over the next day and a bit as I begin my research. Hi, so welcome back to Dissertation Diaries. I think I'm just going to take you through this week because it's been a few days since I last checked in with you. So I'll do like a proper check-in. So I have finished going through John, Gospel according to John, highlighting truth and justice. So this is probably the most clear example, but any part that talks about like truth, like explicitly, so it says truth in it, highlighted pink, and any part that talks about justice, I've highlighted blue. And then I've made like notes on things that I'm kind of noticing. And then I've moved on to, where have they got? There it is. Looking at Psalms, which is a hefty boy. It is partially because, it's a single column and notebook on one side. And I'm up to Psalm 21. I'm out of frame. So I'm up to Psalm 21 doing that out of like 100 and something. Out of like 150, so that'll be fun. Also doing Proverbs, so I've just started Proverbs, as in I'm on, still in chapter 1. I've done like the first section of the first chapter. And what I'm doing, I'm also this afternoon going to look through some of the commentaries on John that I have on a few passages that really had a lot in it, and see what they say about truth and justice. So talk to you a bit about that. And other exciting news, I'm gonna hide. I got a package. I'm a distance student, so I can't like go into the library physically. So I can use like the online library, and I'll look things up and all that sort of thing. And sometimes there's a book that I want that they don't have an online copy of. So with that, I can place a delivery and get it delivered to my house for free. And they give me like, I don't know, I just think it's a really cool system. So they give you like little bags. I've got another one. One sec, I'm just gonna move you. So I've got one at the moment, which is Suffering and Hope. My dissertation is on truth and justice, so like suffering and hope kind of connect to that. I'm kind of just been flicking through and seeing what it says. I can get them out for 12 weeks, but I can like renew that up to 3 times, so I can get it for like 6 months or something. But nobody else wants the book and like orders it in. So that's one that I've got. But what they do is they send it to you in like these nifty little courier bags that are home compostable. So if I wanted to, I could compost it at my house, but I can send it back in this. It's like free delivery. I've just got to drop it off at the courier place. And like they've literally measured it, like breaks down in 6 months, like in a home compost, including like worm farms and that sort of thing. So I think that's awesome. So I don't want to show you all my details. I'm gonna open that here, because you know, it's nice because I don't get the joy of going into a library, but I do get the joy of packages. But and then as like a reseal, so you can send it, they have like a little, I don't know how I'm using, sticky thing that I can peel off and attach, and I could put multiple books in. They then send you like a how to return slip, and in it they also have one of these. So sometimes like I lost the stuff for a book that I got out last year, so I just ordered another one, and I could send them both back in that. They give you a little slip of like, you know, like your reserve slip. And this book is called Grace, Glory and Truth, which is by Alexander Sertasov. Don't know if I said that right. And so I'll be looking at like covenantal aspects of glory, and then grace upon grace, and then the idea of grace and truth. And these all kind of culminate a lot in Jesus, but also in Exodus 33 and 34, which is what I went looking up for, because there's a lot of stuff in. So Exodus 33 and 34 is when like Moses encounters the glory of God on Mount Sinai, and a lot of that talks about grace and truth and grace, and then justice in that, in the book of John at the very beginning it talks about that, and it's all alluding to, not all, but it's alluding a lot back to that point in Exodus, which is also in amidst Israel receiving the law and the justice and righteousness that's involved with the law. And so when it's talking about like covenantal aspects of glory, there's a level where it's talking about like the covenant, which was done through the law, and the law being an act of like justice and glory. So that's all really interesting, and hopefully this is like a good little resource for me to have a flick through as I dive a bit deeper into my research. But I do need to sit down and make sure these get added to like my bibliography thing, so that if I do draw from them, I've got all the bibliographic references there. The other thing that I can do is like, if I send this back and I'm like, oh, there was a section in it that I really wanted that I don't have a copy of now, that was really good, I can like send them the details of like, I just need this chapter, and they can scan that and send it to me. And like the same with like, if I know there's a particular chapter of a book that I want, I can like ask for a scan and they'll just like email it to me, so I don't even have to wait for delivery. But yeah, I don't know, I just think it's a really cool system, and that's the little book I got today. By the way, I have not started writing yet. I am still only in the researching phase. Like, my primary question only got confirmed about a week ago. And I will be having a meeting with my supervisor probably at the end of this coming week, this week. So like 5 days away, because it'll probably be on Friday. Thursday, but yeah, like 5 days away. So we'll have a meeting then to make sure I'm on the right track and like check in how it's going, all of that sort of thing, which will be a good time. I always get a little bit nervous for those things because it's like I could be told I've just gone completely off base, but like I'm also picking my own research topic and like setting my own tone, so I can't be told I've gone too off base. But we'll see, I don't know. So it's the next day now, if you can't tell by my change of clothes, and the weather's really awful. So normally I would go in and work in the morning, and then I'd do a little bit of study in the afternoon. I'd like run some errands and stuff. So normally I don't get that much study done normally on a Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, by the way. But because I work from home, I cut out a whole bunch of travel time. I work from home because the weather is really bad. Normally I go in because I have lots of meetings and things, but I cut out a whole bunch of travel time, so I was able to, and some of the things I normally do on Tuesday afternoon I don't have to do now because of some new rotations and changes in schedule and stuff. So I was able to do a bit more research and stuff this afternoon than I would normally expect to. So I thought I'd talk you through a little bit of what I've done since I last updated you. So last time we talked, I believe I had finished going through the book of John, which is still the case, and I got my new book, not mine, but the new book from the library. I'd started going through Proverbs and was going through the Psalms, Proverbs, so now I've got to figure out kind of what are the key chapters and things that I think are coming out, and then there are some like further connections and things where I'll probably have to go through it again with a more wider scope of like further connections that have been made. So that means it's probably referencing some sort of justice being done amongst multiple other things, or talking about not speaking lies, which means speaking truth, you know, that sort of thing. I've done the latter part a bit less so the first one, because that requires me to have made some of those connections first, and to have written them down so I know what I'm referring back to when I'm looking at it. I'm like, why did I highlight this? Why did I take this out as important? Okay, I talked about this thing. And then I'm going through Psalms. I'm currently on Psalm 40, so made a bit of a dent, but still got a long way to go. So I'm just like sitting down doing that. I might take that with me when I go out this evening and do some of that just while I chill. And yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I'm more likely to do some like readings this evening. I have been going through this book, which is just helping put together some necessary and helpful connotations about, particularly in the beginning of, so what this book, I'm going to talk a little bit about what this book is focused on, because that will help get an idea of what I mean when I'm talking about it. So this book is focused on, in the very beginning of John 1, like 14 to 18. It basically, there's this big allusion to Exodus, when he sees the glory, when Moses asks to see the glory of God and he's able to just see the back, and it talks about God speaking that he is grace and truth. And then in the beginning of John, it talks about how Jesus is grace and truth. So you have that whole tie-in. And actually, one of the things I personally find really interesting about that whole idea is you have the really obvious allusion in the beginning of John, that is the first words of the Bible, in the first words of John. In the beginning was God, and in the beginning there was the Word was God, the Word was with God. And so you then, a few verses after that, have reference to this really, really important time, part of Exodus, where God is revealed to people, and it's referencing that in a similar way, where the way it is phrased is meant to make us think of that part in Exodus. It's just, we know in modern day, we know the first line of the Bible a bit better than we know Exodus 33. So I'm not surprised. But this book kind of unpacks that, because it talks about the glory, grace and truth. And in that, it then talks about the law, and the law being part of judgment and justice, and Jesus being the new criteria in which justice is done, and judgment is made by, because he is the new judge. So it talks a little bit about that. It doesn't go huge in depth, but it helps that me made a couple of connections there with some things which will be helpful to dig into more and really help unpack that relationship between truth and justice, because it's not always inherently obvious, but it is there a lot. And one of the other things that I've noticed, one of the other things I've been thinking about is how in Micah and Isaiah, this part where it talks about man, you know what is good, so therefore you should do it, and what is good is, part of what is good is defined as doing justice. So looking at parts where it says to do good works, if you're doing good works, then you are doing justice to your fellow human. So yeah, so I'm going to dig into that a little bit more. I'll probably have to go through some of the Psalms, because a lot of them talk about doing good works. That's my current update. We'll see where I'm at later if I update you. But yeah, so I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to dig into some things. Tomorrow I'll probably write some stuff to put together, so when I talk to my supervisor on Thursday, I can go, this is where I'm at, this is what I've been thinking about, these are the things that I've made so far, so this is where I'm thinking of taking it. What do you think, basically? Does that sound right? Does that sound onto it? Is there something you think I'm missing? What else could I add, basically? So yeah. Hi, welcome to my kitchen. It's currently lunchtime, and I have been doing a lot of reading this morning. I've read another 40 Psalms, so I'm up to 80. Read most of Matthew as well. I want to finish Matthew today, and I want to get started on Romans as well, so that's the plan. Yeah, so that's reading wise what I'm doing, and I'm going to unpack a little bit more of the book that I was talking to you about earlier. So next day, lunchtime by the way, I've got a phone call at 1 about a job, so yeah, that would just be tutoring. So that's something that's like the main thing I really have scheduled during like the day. So yeah, for lunch we have roti and cooking, and we have falafel, that I made, except it kind of all fell apart a little bit, some of them. So yeah, that's fun. Hi, welcome back. I'm like standing in my little book corner at the moment, but I thought I would update you on how it's going, where I'm at. So it is about, it's just gone 2. I've basically been sitting there reading all day except for a work phone call that I had, which was actually about 10-15 minutes, so not even that long, and lunch, and I can just feel my brain being like, I don't want to do this anymore, it's too much. Yeah, so it's a little bit haywire out here at the moment, but I've finished reading Matthew. I've started Romans. I'm on about chapter 4 or 5 of Romans. Yeah, so this is a couple of hours after lunch when I was partway through Matthew. So I've also read a whole bunch of Psalms today. I've done some like research, so I've read some articles and that sort of thing. Well, I skimmed some articles. I haven't really like done thorough in-depth read of them, but skimmed them and made some notes on like stuff that I thought was interesting. I'm gonna see a movie tonight, which will be fun, go to the cinema. But I'm thinking I might edit a video so that I can post one tomorrow, because I kind of want to get my routine back with posting, try to be more on top of it. So I'm gonna edit that. I might be able to edit part of this together, we'll see what's going, and then I might like add some stuff in. Yeah, I haven't been drinking as much tea in this video because I've been getting a lot of headaches recently, and I don't know if it's because I haven't been drinking as much tea, so it's like caffeine related, though I don't, like, I try to not drink too much like straight black tea all the time, but I haven't been drinking enough water, I think, is actually the problem, plus I haven't been sleeping great. So yeah, trying to solve that, and so kind of we've just been drinking a lot more straight water than tea. Hi, so it is now Thursday, which is the day of my meeting with my supervisor. It's nearly 11, so I've been doing some reading this morning. I finished going through Romans, and I've gone through some more of the book and just pulled out the stuff that seems most relevant from what I can tell. I think I'm finished with what I'm gonna get out of that for now. And I don't know, I think I'm just feeling like a little bit like, not worried, but you know, like anticipatory, I don't know. about the meeting this afternoon with my supervisor, making sure everything's going all good, and also kind of, because it's like the first one where it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing ish, now let's like work on it a bit, so I don't really know what to expect or what's going to come out of it. And also I'm finding it a bit hard to think that it's very cluttered in here. I tend to do most of my study in the living room. It's quite cluttered in here, so I think I'm gonna tidy up a bit, see what. And a little update, so on Romans, finishing that, it's really interesting because most of the places where it talks about justice or things being just, it's talking about justification, which I don't know if I'm gonna include that or not as like how much I'm gonna go into it as an idea. There are probably some things that I'll pull out, but I don't know how like it will of course be useful and helpful, and it's never bad reading a book of the Bible, you know, but I don't know how much I'm actually going to use it in my talk and in my thing, not my talk, in my dissertation. And then the book was really good. It was very like exegetical, lots of stuff that I don't understand. I just kind of hoped that it would be helpful and stuff, but there were some things that were really helpful, like gave quite a good definition for truth, so aletheia, Greek word for truth and how that gets used, but also then like kind of extrapolated out basically that we can show that any time aletheia, which is Greek for truth, is used in the New Testament, can basically, it conjugates to emet, which is the Hebrew word for truth that's used in the Old Testament, that's used in the Hebrew Bible. And so going through, looking at that, so by conjugates I mean like it is similar to, like you can basically, where one was used, you know that the other one can be used in the same context, that basically while it doesn't always mean exactly the same thing, like it doesn't always have exactly the same connotations, it is used in such a way that it basically can be assumed to. That's kind of like in any language, like you have words that kind of mean the same thing but they're actually different connotations. So I thought I would tell you about the dumb but kind of funny thing I just did. So I was like, okay, keeping track of time, got to make sure that I don't miss this meeting because I don't want to get sidetracked and get like stuck into something and then run late, you know. And I look at the time and I'm like, okay, it's like half an hour, so I've got a bit of time, go and get myself all set up and everything, sit down, then turn on the computer, go to like turn it on and everything, click, and then I look at the clock and I'm like, oh, it's 2 p.m. I'm like, oh, it's 2 p.m. it's starting now, like cool, I've got to like make sure that I'm all sorted, like, you know, join the Zoom, and then realize that it's 3 p.m. that it starts, not 2 p.m. and I'm a whole hour early. Fortunately, I'm only a whole hour early for a virtual meeting, so I can just go back to studying and like reading my commentaries and stuff. But yeah, that was fun. I'm like got worried that I was going to be late for nothing. Just was an hour early, and so now I've got to make sure I'm not late again and lose track of time again. So yeah, that was fun. I thought you'd find that update kind of funny. So meeting has just finished as usual. I was a bit worried about nothing. All going fine. Main point for this meeting was really to check that I've started research on the right track. Just to make sure that my past like couple of weeks, week and a half of work, I haven't been completely off base or like doing completely the wrong thing. And it sounds like he
he sounded really positive about it, and like I'm going the right thing, figuring a few things that have come up that could be really good starting points for my dissertation, which could be good. Yeah. So to keep heading in this direction is good, which is kind of continuing to look through commentaries and Bible and what's coming out from there that I could really dig into. And there'll be kind of how he described it was there'll be a moment or something where there'll just be an idea that seems to really click or resonate with me, which it does sound like something that would happen, where I'm like, okay, this is what I want to pursue and this is what I want to keep going down and really dig into for the rest of the year. So I think that's good, and hopefully that comes up soon because that makes my life easier. And there have been a couple of things that we talked about that could be good starting places for the dissertation to like jump off, either being looking at like Pilate and Jesus at the trial when Pilate says, "What is truth?" and Jesus doesn't respond, but his existence is kind of a response because he is truth. So what is truth? I am. But there's also like two different definitions of the world and truth there. And then also the prophetic claims in Isaiah, Joel and Micah about, oh man, you know what is good, do justice, a few other things in there. And then looking at like, okay, what do those prophetic claims mean? What are they going on about? You know, so those probably start at one of those places since they seem like good places to start. We can't enact justice fully ourselves because historically we've been pretty bad at it, and it's showing right judgment. Like we can be okay sometimes, but we're not always fantastic, and we often do more harm than we do good because we can't see the whole picture, where God can see the whole picture. And so we do need to trust his prerogative for justice and see to his way, because ultimately he knows the right justice and can see the whole picture. And his goal for justice is restoring right relationship, which he does through Jesus primarily. I think those might be places that I go. We'll see. That's kind of given me more stuff to dig into and look into, which will be good. He said to just enjoy this part of it, just the research and seeing what's out there, so I will keep enjoying. But the next couple of videos might be a bit more of Dissertation Diaries. The next one might be a bit more like this with more research, but it will probably be more coherent. So this was more, this whole thing that I've been doing is much more of a complete exploratory what's out there. This going from there now, kind of figuring out what clicks, what sparks joy, you know, what makes me excited. And then if I don't seem to have anything settled with that in a month or so, and I just have lots of ideas that I don't know what to go with, can then have a further discussion about what would be interesting. Yeah, however, I just started early. I'm a bit eager. I'm very excited about this. But yeah, it was really positive, really good, so that's good. Yeah, and so kind of just sum up what I've looked at so far, what is true from Pilate and the prophetic claims in Isaiah, Joel and Micah, and also I don't know, I feel like there's something with the Kingdom of God connection in it, so I might look into that a bit more, because that might be it, because I do find the whole Kingdom of God thing really interesting. Looking at particularly like the idea of the good works and stuff for people. I'll see what I do and see where I go and see what comes out of my brain in the next little while. I will see you later in the next installment of Dissertation Diaries, potentially. And yeah, I hope you're doing well. If you find this interesting, or if there's anything that's come up from this, let me know. I think this one has mostly just been me letting you know what I'm doing for research, but I think that hopefully is helpful if you are starting any sort of research project, because it can be hard figuring out where to start. You did make a joke about how there might be a PhD in this, which is not off the table, but probably need funding for that. I would definitely need funding to do a PhD. I cannot afford to keep doing this forever. I'm going to need funding to do my master's. If you have any questions about like what I'm doing, about study, about this, feel free to ask me, drop it down below, comment on something, yeah, or if there's anything that you'd like to see like a particular process of in terms of me working on my dissertation over the year, let me know and I can make sure to document that part of it to help you. But ultimately I think it's really helpful to have this sort of thing. So yeah, I will see you all next time with another video, another installment, and if you want to like, subscribe, that sort of thing to keep involved in the little process, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm feeling very positive about it going out. I kind of have an idea of where I'm going to go into next. So yeah, I'll see you all next time. Bye!